So my presentation is about the capital punishment for the death penalty for rapists for children under 12 years old. Have you ever seen a child who has been traumatized by the actions of an adult hurting them in crude and insidious ways that make you both want to hug the child and attack the adult who hurt them? A bill was passed last year in Florida with the death penalty and is now legal for the rapist for children under 12 years old, and it is still a matter of great controversy. This presentation and speech is to persuade you that this death penalty for child molesters and rapists are a good thing. It will allow for closure for the victims, vindication for both the family and the victims, and prevent more victims. It will also be a deterrence for the continuing of such an atrocity.
Okay.
First would be trauma. Sometimes justice is dismissing a change, granting a plea bargain, expunging a past conviction, seeking a prison sentence, or sometimes justice is death. A drug cartel member whose rival cartel member faces life in prison without parole. What if he murdered 2 or 3 or 12 people, or if the victim is a child or multiple children? What if the murder was preceded by torture or rape? The nature of the crime and the depth of its depravity should matter, said George Brauchler. The death penalty will provide a comforting closure to the victims, proving that their monster is unable to harm them again. It gives the child a sense of safety. The monster is banished, never able to return. Although the death penalty does not heal the child of all the harm done to them, it gives the child the closure needed to begin the process of healing and knowing that their villain is gone.
Agreed.
Next is vindication. Sexual assault of a child does not only wound the child emotionally and in deliberating ways, but it also fractures the family in often hidden and unseen anguish. It often starts with the betrayal of friends or family. Most cases of sexual abuse happen from someone the child knows. It is often hurts the rest of the family. Most often the parents or siblings that were the ones to introduce the perpetrator to the child. It causes a lot of guilt and suffering in the family. According to Douglas and Greer, in as many as 93% of child sexual cases, the child knows the person that commits the abuse. Most are acquaintances, but as many as 47% are family and extended family. Leopard wrote in her article, "Retribution is an expression of society's right to make a moral judgment by imposing a punishment on the wrongdoer benefiting the crime he has committed. Therefore, the death penalty should be available for the worst of the worst." The death penalty gives vindication to both the family and the victim that something has to be done to fix the wrongs that they missed in the eyes of the family, and that the victim got retribution for hurting them in heinous ways. Reoffending is also normally an issue. With 71% of child molesters and 41% of rapists reoffending, the capital punishment is the wisest choice to have. Kenneth Allen McDuff was convicted and sentenced to death in 1966 for the murders of 3 teenagers and the rape of 1. During Furman versus Georgia in 1972, the Supreme Court invalidated the death penalty nationwide, leading to McDuff being released in 1989. An estimated 3 days later, he began a crime spree, torturing, raping, and murdering at least 6 women in Texas before being arrested again May 4th, 1992. DeSantis said during a bill signing event Monday in Brevard County, "Unfortunately, in our society, we have heinous sex crimes that are committed against children under the age of 12 years old. These are really the worst of the worst. The perpetrators of these crimes are often serial offenders."
That is accurate.
As with McDuff's case, child rapists often reoffend when released. Giving them the death penalty will save many children from the horrors of being violated and their innocence stolen from their grasp. If he had been put to death when he was originally supposed to, at least 6 women would not have been brutalized and murdered in the 3 years he was free. The main controversies for the death penalty is the risk of dehumanizing punishment, the costs of the death penalty, and false convictions. When the law punishes by death, it risks its own sudden descent into brutality, transgressing the constitutional commitment to decency and restraint, according to Kennedy v. Louisiana in 2008. This can easily be covered by making strict regulations about how the prisoner on death row is to be treated, regular checks up with the prisoners, and surprise inspections of the guards. Such crimes destroy the innocence of a young child and violate all standards of decency held by a civilized society, so they need to be punished to the degree with which they violated the law and society.
I agree with that.
In Texas, executions tend to be funded by raising property taxes and by reducing public safety expenditure. Taxes are raised for multiple reasons every year at the least. I would rather pay more taxes to keep our children safe rather than have our children be in danger because I did not want to raise my taxes. There are ways to limit false convictions of rape of a child. The child should be talked to separately to avoid any kind of coaching, evidence with the rape taken, evidence around the place the rape took place, just as in any other case. If a child under 12 reports that they have been raped, it is very rare that it will ever be false without coaching. Let us review what we went over in the speech. The death penalty will provide comfort and closure to the victims, vindication for the victims and the family, and preventing the deterrence of more victims through reoffending. Now that you have this information to think on, I hope I have persuaded you to the reason the death penalty is needed.
I agree, it's needed.